Greetings, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. My name is Kat Courtney. I am the CEO of Plant Medicine People. I have been working with plant medicines for a couple decades, but I discovered Hapéh, our topic today, about 4 or 5 years into my journey of apprenticing with ayahuasca. I worked with Mapacho out of the gate, but Hapéh was introduced to me later on. And so our topic today is talking about cultivating a deeply reverent, connected, and healing relationship with this particular aspect of sacred tobacco. So I have two extremely special guests with me today that have a lot of experience and a depth of knowledge about Hapéh as well. We have my sister Chandra, who is the founder of Tribu Spirit, which truly is my favorite Hapéh market for a number of reasons that I'll share later. But Chandra, she's got a long, deep relationship with Hapéh. She's initiated into being a server of him, and we'll describe a little bit more of what that means in a bit. But Chandra is a legit medicine woman, and she's a multidimensional healer, and she's also a sound therapist. And she's crazy in the best possible way, and someone I deeply admire and respect. So thanks for being here, sweetheart.
Thank you so much for having me, Kat. It's an honor and pleasure to be here, and hello to everyone.
We also have with us today Daryl Dassey, which is one of my medicine brothers for like almost a decade, something like that. Daryl and I are both part of the Shubipo Kanibo tradition, have mad love for working with ayahuasca and Hapéh. And Daryl actually in one of the retreats I did a few years ago, dieted Mapacho, which with a master plant diet, Mapacho is not an easy one. And, you know, even with a plant that we think that we know, like tobacco, rose, etc., when we diet that plant, the depth, the intimacy that happens as a result of that. So Daryl's here to share some of the wisdoms that he's acquired from working with tobacco in this reverent way in multiple traditions. So thank you for being here, Daryl. He's also, by the way, a traditionally trained doctor. So he comes with Western knowledge and intuitive shamanic knowledge. So it's lovely when that comes in a joint package. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, so just quickly for all of you who have joined, the format of this is going to be, we're going to talk a little bit and share relationship with Hapéh, share some processes of how to self-serve, and just talk about a little bit of the history of him. Then we're going to do the demonstration of self-serving. I'll go through that, but let Daryl and Chandra share like some of what they do differently, because each of us has our own very personal way of working with this medicine. It's never wrong, but it's lovely to get inspired by what other people do. And then lastly, we are going to take questions from any of you. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat and I'll pull them in later, because we want to make sure to honor whatever is on your hearts and minds regarding this amazing plant. So let's dive in. Chandra, I want to start with you. Can you just give us a little overview of Hapéh as a medicine, the history of how he came to be such a sacred partner in healing work from the indigenous tribes that you've worked with? So give us a background, if you would.
So Hapéh is traditionally called Romepoto. And then along the line, it was pronounced as Rapeh, and then I think specifically started putting an H in front of the R because of the connotation, because everything is energy. So the association with that just didn't feel right for me. So Hapéh traditionally, really like this tradition comes from Brazil in Acre. Acre is a very large area, and it's a very protected area. So within Acre, you have protected territories where each tribe will live along the Gregorio River. And Hapéh helps to clear the energy field, to realign the chakras, even though that's something we can't necessarily medically claim helps to balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain, helps with anxiety, depression, fibromyalgia. Hapéh is also traditionally used in uni ceremonies, which is the word that they use for ayahuasca in ayahuasca ceremonies in Brazil. So this for me is the first tradition that I was ever introduced to and also studied with. So I have a long relationship with various different tribes, which is where the medicines that we provide come from.
Beautiful. And what is he to you? What role does he play in your spiritual path?
He's like my Hoover. He gets in and he hoovers out the energy field. He's my sacred protector. He's my sacred masculine that really helps, especially after ceremonies, before ceremonies, to clear the energy field and keep me safe and protected and grounded, really grounded. Like sometimes I can be in ceremony and just go and be in a completely different time space continuum, I'm sure, as you guys all know. And then when I come back into reality, it's like, oh, I have a body. And Hapéh helps me have a body and have some grounding.
The divine masculine component that you mentioned is so key for me, because between Hapéh and Wachuma, those are the medicines that have taught me really what divine masculine energy feels like, because I didn't personally have any examples of that and had a deep distrust of the masculine. And then it's working with these two plants where I feel that safety, that unconditional container of being held by that energy. And I'm mostly air and fire. And so Hapéh is my tool to come back into my body when I'm in, well, not just ceremony work, life work, but ceremony work, especially traveling dimensions. And the word I always hear when I work with Hapéh is alignment. Like, boom, come back in that, like that, strong masculine staff of feeling embodied and clear and strong and just heaven. So you described that beautifully. Thank you. Daryl, talk a little bit about the spirit of tobacco and who he is in terms of the archetype and the personality that he carries.
Yeah, so the spirit of tobacco, specifically Mapacho, because that's the one I've dieted, not necessarily American tobacco. But to me, Mapacho was, as you guys already mentioned, the divine masculine. And during that dieta, it taught me truly what it meant to be masculine. And it doesn't mean to come with brute force, but yet still be powerful. And so if you're asking necessarily, if you're asking me maybe how he showed up to me, perhaps, it was the most quaint, beautiful spirit of a very small Peruvian man whenever I dieted Mapacho. But the whole speak softly, carry a big stick thing, motto is truly what it came in. So the spirit of Mapacho to me is the most loving, most kind, most warming grandfather energy you can have, that never judges and always says everything's okay, but totally has your back, lets you know his power whenever you pick him up to use him in ceremony with intention, and can definitely clear a room, set the room straight, and help things move forward. Not only that, but it's kind of the beginning and the end of every ceremony that I've sat in, whether it be North American ceremony, whether it be South American ceremony. So it's a very important spirit all over the continent.
I want to share just a quick story of who he is to me, because you described that beautifully, Daryl. Daryl, I think you might have been at this ceremony that I was leading years ago. And when I closed it, I had the intuition to work with some ambil, which is tobacco paste. And I'm very sensitive to tobacco, super sensitive. And it hit me super hard. And I went into the bathroom and I was sweating and purging and spinning. And as I was in that state, the spirit of tobacco appeared to me and said, hey, I have another name that I'd like you to call me by. And even though I was purging and sweating and whatnot, I was like, dude, how many names do you need? Like Mapacho, tobacco, Hapéh, ambil. And he answered back, okay, Tina, Kat, Ashkumishi, my medicine name, all of my names. I was like, okay, touche. He said the name that he wanted me to call him is Father Earth. because he described how he's married to the consciousness of our planet. And then he made the joke that, you know, a lot of the plants that we work with are from around these parts, like Chakruta, crazy multidimensional wild child. She's not from the earth. She lives here, but she's cosmic. Whereas tobacco, he's like, I am from here and I will always be here because I am the masculine counterpart to Mother Earth, which I found so profound. And like, not even before thinking about what the masculine balance, I mean, we talk about Father Sky and some of the native traditions, but to have it in the spirit of a plant, yes, it's tobacco married to the consciousness of Mother Earth. So yeah, I just feel like that embodies his essence. Thank you for sharing, Daryl.
I would also
Sure.
consider him kind of like the oversoul of the plant kingdom, which goes into the whole Father Earth thing. Like, I feel like the Mapacho tobacco specifically has, I don't want to say reign or dominion, but he's even over ayahuasca and over the other plant medicines too, in my opinion. So
In that divine masculine container holder, I feel that too. You know, that's why I love the Father Earth reference, is it just, his role is so powerful and ever present. And you know, the fact that he's also the villain and the hero in our story, which we've talked about in previous discussions, of just the duplicitous role based on the relationship that we have with tobacco and how he shows up. He's such a teacher of intention and of how we're relating to the medicine that he brings. So Chandra, let's bring in Hapéh again. Tell us about, so Hapéh is so versatile, right? There's all kinds of different tribes that make this medicine. There's different plants that are integrated into it. So can you tell us what, you know, basically Hapéh is as a foundation, and talk a bit about the different ways that this medicine is made?
So Hapéh is primarily made of mapacho, the purest form of tobacco that we can find. It is, I think it's like 16, Daryl, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, 16 times stronger than normal tobacco. It is organic. So the way that it's made is the tobacco leaves are laid out on the earth, and then they're dried in the sun until they get dry, and then they're put into this container. In the jungle, they have them, they look like really silver canisters. They're long, cylinder-like, and then there's a long stick inside the middle of it, and you pack that full. It's really beautiful the way that Hapéh is made in the jungle, because it's a beautiful ceremonial celebration. Everyone gets together, sacred space is opened, and prayers are offered, and then everybody takes a little bit of uni that is like really very mild, but a little bit watered down, very mild ayahuasca, and then everybody starts singing and dancing, and the preparation begins. So it's a really joyful celebratory time, you know, and then everybody has a chance to make the Hapéh. So the grinding happens by this action, and you're really kind of like working with it in tune with the music, and offering and setting your intention and prayers. And each person, it goes around, and each person has their moment to offer their prayers into the medicine. Once it is, Hapéh is a very long, arduous process. Pacha agrees, sorry. Pacha, please, quiet. Sorry. It's a long, arduous process. Sometimes it takes days. After the tobacco is processed and grind into a fine powder, they then have these like large bowls. Let's say they're like bowls, large bowls, and then there's a cloth, a fine cloth, almost even like this, that's almost like see-through, but it's kind of like meshy. And then the powder is put on top, and then it's pushed through the mesh like this, and that is processed. Really good Hapéh is processed that way about 3 to 4 times. Then once all of that is processed through, then the ash, which is also the same. So Hapéh is made with mapacho, and then various different trees, barks, flowers, roots, sometimes turned into ash. So like we have a Hapéh, this Palo Santo Hapéh. This one is the ash of the Palo Santo, or the some of the other ones can be like seeds ground into a fine powder. So it depends on, each tribe makes their own various different blends, but primarily traditional Hapéh is made with mapacho and then various different ashes. So the ash part gets mixed through and also sieved through so you mix it together, and then it's processed again in the same way, where you take that medicine and you sieve it through again. Sorry.
It's all good. Your description, though, it makes sense. I've often wondered, like when I work with the Palo Santo, Hapéh, or cacao, rose, etc., it's so perfectly evenly distributed. There's never like a chunk of Palo Santo and then tobacco. Everything is so beautifully mixed, which kind of speaks to what you're describing, the multiple processes of taking the ashes and putting them through the mesh and the sieve and making sure everything is balanced. I mean, it's really labor intensive.
It takes days, but it's
What
all
about
full of love and prayers and intention.
That's what I was just going to ask, the love and the prayers and intentions. So are those kind of, I mean, the love is the same, but the prayers and the way that that the different tribes sing and work with the medicine, are those vibrations different? Because I can feel the different. Yawanawa is my favorite. There's like a vibration in Yawanawa that I can't describe, but it has to, I'm assuming it has to do just with the energy of the prayers and the songs, and I'm just responding to it in a positive way, because each of the tribes have a different process of imbibing that. I mean, the process you described, I'm sure, is similar, but the intentions and the songs are different. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, and generally most tribes work with the same spirits, like their songs are calling in, they're very sweet songs. When they're translated, they're really like, you know, calling in the animals of the forest, and the jiboya, which is, you know, for them, it's Mother Ayahuasca. It's sometimes they're cosmology stories. Yeah. Each tribe is a bit different, but generally they all work with the same spirits in the forest.
I saw on your Instagram not that long ago, you were calling out like there's a new wave of trying to industrialize this process, right? Tell us about why that doesn't work in the context of making Hapéh. What's the issue with making machinery create the medicine?
Anytime you're working with plant medicine, if you are taking it and putting it in a blender or a giant machine, and you're not working with, we're talking about energy medicine, you know, it's highly important to treat all life on this earth with sacred reverence as you would yourself. So when we're taking a plant and essentially putting it in a blender, you won't feel anything. You won't receive any benefits. I mean, I've not tried Hapéh that's made with a machine, but you know, the intention and the prayers behind everything, each person that is touching it, each person that is praying with it, their intentions that go into it, which is why you could take a very pure medicine and turn it into something very bad, depending on your energy and your intention. And we hear about this all the time, unfortunately. So I would encourage everyone to, you know, if you maybe are trying a new Hapéh supplier, I would definitely ask them, it's unfortunate that this has to be a question nowadays, but I encourage everyone to ask your Hapéh suppliers, are your medicines machine made?
Yeah, it's becoming a thing. Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to mention, because it's something you're really thoughtful about with the Hapéhs that you create with Tribu Spirit, is the packaging. Like, your packaging is all eco-friendly. I don't know of any other supplier that is thoughtful in that way. And that matters, because if you put all this prayer and intention into making it and then put it in something plastic or metallic, that it's going to affect the medicine too. So thank you for also being thoughtful about the delivery system, because I noticed the difference in the aluminum versus your containers.
This was something that was bothering me for years when we were packing the medicine. It was just like these piles of plastic, and every time I would just cringe. It was something that, like, for me was really one of my very big prayers, and I'm so grateful that we are able to accomplish this. Everything is made of recycled paper, and then it is also biodegradable. And on the bottom we have a Sri Yantra symbol, which is also keeping your medicine charged and blessed and protected.
Thank you for that, for thinking of all of that. Daryl, would you share a little bit about what you learned in the diet with Mapacho? Like maybe that you didn't know before, even though I know you worked with Mapacho and Hapéh before the diet. What came through that maybe was surprising or different in that intimate relationship?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before I go into that, I'd like to go back to the industrial making of the Hapéh.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
something I was taught along the way is that spirit, whether it be our spirit, spirit of a plant, spirit of anything, cannot stay in an inhospitable environment. And so if you're grinding it, if you're doing warp speed with industrial machines, you're going to heat it up to a point where it's an inhospitable environment for the spirit of that medicine to even stay in, and it leaves. And so I think that's also another point of it as well.
That is an excellent point, and not just for Hapéh and all the medicines that we are acquiring. What comes to mind when you mention that is when we dry herbs, if it's dried under a lamp and not in the sun, the alchemy changes. The spirit is disintegrated. Whereas if it's a natural process in the sun, even though it's heat, it's a different forms of heat. And so it really does matter how we work with and process these medicines, and natural is better. So really, really good point.
Yeah.
Mapacho.
Same with boiling as well, like cacao. I never boil it. I always do it. So Mapacho, what I learned, that's a good question. I think I already touched on that in the beginning, is basically, again, about the divine masculinity and how he came in that way. And how, even though, and if I'm going off track, please let me know. But basically how, in order to be strong, you don't have to be boisterous. You don't have to stand out in front. You don't have to push your way around, how to be very quiet and still be very strong. And that's what he taught me, because again, he showed up as the most loving grandfather figure to me. And throughout that entire dieta and how I've used him in ceremony and in life since, it's never been, even though he's one of the most powerful spirits and plant partners we can have, he's never once pushed his way into my life or told me to do anything. Whisper softly in the ear when to use him, and whenever I ever pick him up in ceremony, whenever it's really time to use him, I can feel the power come through, so much so that I can barely even hold a Mapacho stick. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't any more lessons per se, other than basically the divine masculinity and what it means to be that and carry that and to express that and show that.
Which is arguably kind of a limitless well of learning, especially because, at least for myself, I didn't have, as I mentioned, examples of that energy. And so that's a big topic to lean into, because I think what you're mentioning is what I have learned from Hapéh as well. Our definition of what is masculine isn't it. It's based on aggression and force, whereas the medicine of sacred tobacco is strong love. It isn't forceful. Like you said, he often is about a whisper, an invitation. He won't like insert his energy, perspective, etc. It's like we have to lean in to hear it, to invite it in. It's never forced. And so, yeah, so that description of working with the container of divine masculine, that's a kind of a never-ending process, especially because there's so much that we have to unlearn regarding what most of us have been taught masculine energy really is. So let's talk a bit about the process of self-serving and why we would, even want to, if any of the people here are new to the practice. Chandra, can you speak to the benefits of having a self-serving practice, of working with him one-on-one?
I always kind of try to challenge people and say, if they're new to Hapéh, really set your intention for 30 days to work with this medicine. And at the end of it, you tell me if it doesn't change your life, I will give you your money back. When working with this medicine, and I think especially with Hapéh, because, you know, the spirit of grandfather tobacco is, he helps uplift our prayers into the spirit realm. He is that delivery, you know, one of his jobs is he's that delivery mechanism. So when we're setting our intention every day, I always recommend for people once a day or twice a day, once in the morning, to really set your prayer and set your intention. Start your day off in a really high vibrational, positive way. Set your prayers, your intentions, and everyone tells me that it changes their outlook on their day and also on their life. And I mean, Hapéh saved my life. That's why I do what I do. And it also certainly saved me in my life.
I start each day. I've got my altar. Actually, I have a separate altar just for Hapéh, sitting right here. And I start each day with self-serving and also giving him like the theme of the day, you know, whatever energy is coming through. Typically, I don't have an ask of him. I just want to connect, which is something that I emphasize in terms of relationship with all plant spirits, especially ones that we work with regularly. Don't always make it about, I want something, bring me peace, bring me, you know, heart connectedness. Like, yes, it's okay to have individual requests, but this is a relationship. And so quite often what I recommend is have it be about connecting with them. What does Hapéh want to share with you today? You know, what can you learn about him that you didn't know yesterday? You know, make it about the relationship with the spirit, not always something that we're asking for, because that's imbalanced. If you had a friend that did nothing but ask you for something, it would get old. It has to be in balance. And so especially with Hapéh, medicines that we work with regularly, to hold that near and dear. Carrie's asking something that is really also very dear to my heart that I want to bring in. Some of us, and I say us because I'm one of these people, are really sensitive to the energy of this medicine. So Carrie's describing her husband had a first experience of receiving Hapéh in a Wachuma ceremony, and it was a low dose, and it completely blasted him, and he never wants to try it again. Chandra, what do you say to people that have a first experience that is, because it's not, you know, it's not a medicine that is always going to knock somebody's socks off unless you're really sensitive. I know every time I receive Hapéh from someone truly initiated with a deep relationship, I'm going to have a good 15-20 minutes of drooling and being completely discombobulated. And I don't mind it, by the way. It's beautiful. It's just I'm out of commission for at least 20 minutes, and it's going to take a while to come back in, because that's my sensitivity. But what do you say to people that have had a really traumatizing experience and don't know quite what to do with that or how to rebuild that relationship?
Yeah, one of my past partners, he also the same. Every time he was served Hapéh, it would be coming out both ends. I would like his head would be on my lap. He'd be like sweating profusely. So I certainly understand some people are very sensitive to tobacco, mapacho, and Hapéh. And also some people have a tobacco allergy. There are lighter blends that you can work with. There are some that actually don't contain tobacco or mapacho. And there's one blend specifically, we don't carry it anymore because unfortunately most people like really strong Hapéh. But this blend is called Apurina, and it is just green. It looks a little bit like spirulina. It smells like yummy, delicious plants. And it's a very nice, easy, smooth, gentle Hapéh to work with. It is very special because it's only collected during the dry season, because in the rainy season, like it's just too complicated for them to collect and then also dry any of the plants out. So it is a very special one. And I would recommend this one, or maybe some lighter blends that don't contain too much tobacco and contain more ash than tobacco.
And one of the things I want to emphasize is that receiving Hapéh from somebody is very different than self-serving. I received Hapéh once from someone who I think had the agenda to take me down. Like there was like some competitive energy, and it almost worked. Like, whew. And I knew immediately. It was like one of those moments. As soon as I sat down, I knew it didn't feel aligned. I could feel Mapacho just kind of saying, don't do it, girl. But I wanted to save face. I didn't want to like turn down the opportunity to receive from this woman. And she showed me how much she was going to serve me. And it was a huge amount. And I was like, I trust you. And I didn't. I was out of integrity. And she blasted me. And it almost ruined my relationship with Hapéh. And what a dear friend of mine at the time, who has an amazing relationship with him, told me is like, recreate a foundation of trust through a daily self-serving practice of like starting really gentle and asking for help. And that's where that alignment word came in for me. Is I was out of alignment. Like, I fully understand that I called that in. It wasn't the medicine's fault. It was a combination of my sensitivity and my distrust of my intuition and wanting to, look strong, look good, instead of really honoring what felt right. And so what I did, and it was very scary and difficult, is started a self-serving practice again, very gently, working with the gentle blends and working my way up again and rebuilding that trust and confidence. So for people that have gone through something traumatic, especially receiving from someone else, and that there's more to the medicine, that the medicine wants to create a deeper relationship, that's, my advice is going slow and steady. Because as we mentioned, Rapeh is really respondent to intention. So if you come in and your intention is, I really just need to rebuild trust and to have it be gentle, there is nothing wrong with wanting a gentle experience and reestablishing trust. That, as Daryl was describing, the divine masculine is not go big or go home. It isn't about being blasted every time we work with him. So he's been, at least for me, exceedingly kind and generous of rebuilding that trust. Now, there are mornings where, I mean it. I want a deep connection with him. And I always have my bucket because I purge fairly frequently, and that's okay, but he's so honoring of my true feeling intention, and he was masterful at rebuilding the trust. So now I can receive from people again. I can have big experiences. It's still strong. Carrie, to your point about your husband, it's like, it's still a big experience for me to receive, but I've learned to work with it, and that there's a time and a place where it's absolutely beautiful. Because some of us are just more sensitive than others. I know for me too, a lot of times it's been a challenging medicine to work with because I am not in my body most of the time. And Hapéh is a medicine of embodiment. He's helped me heal the remnants of years of bulimia and treating my body like shit, and so there's cleaning that happens that is sometimes really uncomfortable, but really healing. It's like every time I've worked with him in a deep way, another piece of what I say is my most difficult relationship, which has been the relationship with my body, is healed. So I guess I'm mentioning all of this because there's always a method to the madness of why there's a sensitivity, why it might be difficult. And, if you feel called to continue to work with the medicine in a deep way, self-serving is a gorgeous way to establish that trust again. So before I go through the process of self-serving, we also had a question, Chandra, just about, basically your initiation into serving others and why that's important and also really rare these days. Like, can you describe what the traditional process is around getting to be a medicine carrier of him? Because a lot of people are anointing themselves these days, and, I'm not the judgment police, but it's not the traditional way. There's initiation. Can you speak to that?
My initiation was with someone named Bainewa in the Hunikuin tribe, and he was a friend of one of my ex-partners. And I would say that they sort of blended their two, like the two of them with their wisdom. It was super hardcore. There was actually a 4-day Mapacho dieta, but it was only like a coffee cup full of Mapacho juice, and that just blasted me to pieces. I had to be carried upstairs to the bedroom, coming out both ends, purging everywhere. my physical body, like I just couldn't move. We were taught the different blows. So there are different blows when you're administering to someone. And those blows, each one is sort of like an energetic diagnosis. You know, when you're in ceremony or you can feel the energy of the person, you'll know which kind of blow they'll need. It's a very intuitive thing. And there is one blow that in particular is sort of like, you know, shouldn't really be used. It's called the hummingbird blow, and it's a very strong, powerful, fast blow. And this will help to clear entities. Sometimes it will also help to, if someone is like, if they're in a medicine space and they need to purge, it'll help them purge. Or if someone is just kind of, you know, like, whoa, not here, really struggling, it'll help bring them in really, you know, strong. Sometimes people can create energetic distractions in ceremonies, to use that one also. But however, I would say that like a lot of my masculine teachers love to use this blow because it is, you know, it's like a very masculine thing. So and it becomes this machismo thing of like, oh yeah, I can, you know, like I can give it to somebody really hard. My initiation was 7 pinus, which are the blows. So a pinu is 1 and 1. So that's 1 round, and that's called a pinu. So plata is the blow. You had to receive 7 of those, but they were hummingbirds. one right after another. After 2, I was like, I can't breathe. And then I just couldn't feel my body anymore. After 2, it was sort of like, oh, okay, you know, it's almost like holding your breath and you're floating. And I passed out on the floor on the earth. We were outside, and I just prayed. I couldn't feel my body. I prayed to Pachamama, and I laid on the earth for, I don't even know. I wasn't aware of time. It had rained. It rained on me. I was like snot all over my face, all over the floor, like, you know, half purging at that point. It was just, and then when I woke up, I was finally like feeling my body again. When I woke up, I was by a tree and there was a hummingbird floating above me. And for me, that was just like the most beautiful symbol of the spirit of Hapéhcito, saying like, I'm here. We're connected, we're in union now. Yeah, it was very challenging, and I have given one person an initiation, and there is an importance of going through that hardcore experience to do the 7 pinus one right after the other, is because it breaks you down. It gets you to surrender, and also to rebuild yourself, to really die and be reborn, to be reborn with the spirit of tobacco, and to know that he is your strength and your ally now. You know, I bring in the sweetness with my student that I initiated. So with my initiation, I did a very masculine way that I received, but then also brought in the sweetness with like agua florida and songs and like a nice energy cleansing agua florida bath. Yeah, so this, I mean, if someone is blowing your head off, it's also kind of, if like say you go to a ceremony and you see someone who's like really, so there are some indigenous who don't serve this way. I would say that that's a red flag. If you see you're in ceremony and they're offering hapéh, pay attention to the way that they are serving. If they're blasting people's heads off, this should not be happening. There's only there's a time and a place for that. Hapéh should be, as you expressed, Kat, it's a very intimate process. You're up in someone's energy field. You know, it's like you're about to kiss them when you're giving them the soplada. It's an energetic exchange. When you are giving, you're blowing your breath of life, your connection to the spirit of Hapéh into the other person, and blowing your intention in your prayer. I mean, I don't know how more intimate that can get. And it's like, if you're gonna, you know, step into bed with someone and they're going to just, you know, so I would say that that is a very big red flag if someone is serving in that way. It should be a very gentle flowing process. Like the blow should be, it's called the deer blow. It should just be.
That's my favorite. That's
Yeah.
and it's interesting because I was initiated too. I was initiated by someone in the Shipibo Kanibo and Quechua Lemisa traditions, and had to do 7 rounds very quickly, all hummingbird as well. Completely destroyed me. But I remember in the middle of that, I felt Hapéh telling me that that wasn't how it should always be done, because this person always blew that way. And in fact, I've manifested several people in my life that only blow that way, bullet. And my way is the deer way 90% of the time. But I had to give myself permission to do it that way through my relationship with Hapéh, because first of all, it is intuitive to me, because that's just my energy. But yeah, I found the same. It's like, he's like, look, if we need to go big, I'll tell you, you'll know, because of the context, what you're describing, the different situations that might be appropriate for a hummingbird. But I don't trust people that have the arrogance around only serving that way. Yeah, always serve hard. No, or people that just want to receive it that way. I have triggered people that have come to ceremony that are like, I want it really hard and strong. I'm like, you don't tell me how to blow. I'm not your DJ. It's going to come the way it comes. And it's sometimes soft and gentle, and they don't like that. I'm like, well, then that's your problem, not finding beauty in the subtlety, not mine. No, but that's part of what Daryl brought in too, I think, around the divine masculine teaching, is that he's like, no, it's not always about heaviness or intensity. Sometimes it is an invitation to experience the subtlety. But most importantly, I think, Chandra, what you're bringing in that is so dear to me is that if it's about the agenda of the person serving all the time, they're not in relationship with the medicine. You know, because I know for me, sometimes I will grab, whether I'm self-serving or serving from somebody else, and I'll have it in my head, oh, I just want a little bit, and a bunch will come out. I trust that. I trust Hapéh of like, no, actually, you should go bigger, or vice versa, right? Like, and the more that I'm sure it's been the case for both of you, the more that I've worked with them, the more it's become intuitive, the more I've learned to trust what's coming through rather than whatever I had in my head, because I can't help but have things in my head. But Daryl, would you speak to that at all, about the process of it being, we're vessels for this medicine, and how we orchestrate, like trying to be in partnership rather than having a plan or agenda? Is there anything you want to add to that?
For self-serving or serving others?
Either.
Yeah, I find that for me personally, I'm better able to get into my intuition when I'm serving someone else, when I'm seeing more what they need. And so I can feel the subtleties of that, how much they may need, which blend they may need. But when it comes to serving myself, I'm always a little bit in my head in regards to, do I need this? Why am I doing this? What's my intention? Is it now becoming an addictive pattern? And so I don't necessarily lean into intuition so much on that as far as how much I serve myself, because I kind of regulate myself. If it starts getting too much, then I kind of say that's not necessarily medicine, that's becoming something different. And that's the way I look at it for me, because I don't want to have an addictive personality.
Okay, so you bring in something super important, is the fact that this medicine has nicotine and it is addictive. Chandra mentioned at the beginning, it's actually the wild jungle medicine is far more potent than the cultivated, like abused American version of it. So Daryl, since you have the floor, can you say anything more to, okay, how to navigate the addictive tendencies of Hapéh, and why it's even beneficial that he has that edginess to him?
Yeah, as far as navigating it, you just have to be aware. You have to be your own judge on that. You know, again, what is your intention for stepping to the medicine and sitting with the medicine? Are you bored? You know, is that all it is? Well, then that's not medicine. That's an escape, you know, and then that's very quickly going to become an addiction, more so than if you need it to clean energies. If you went somewhere where you picked up a lot of exogenous energies from other people, you need to help clean that off. That's you can. Well, for example, in my daily life right now, I'm doing a lot of house calls. And so I come home every night and I end my day with Hapéh to get rid of all those energies I picked up from people's houses. And that's not addictive at all because it's truly, truly medicine in that standpoint. But if I'm to sit around and be like, I wonder what my Pacho and friends are doing right now, or don't have anything else to do, then that's going to very quickly become an addictive pattern. So how else to navigate that? Well, one, you look at your dose. You know, two, you feel with the medicine how it's coming on. For me personally, if I no longer feel the medicine when I'm serving it to myself, I probably didn't need the medicine, or I may be getting to the point where I don't need the medicine and need to think what else I can do to help the situation I am, or why I'm even sitting with the medicine. And I think that's the biggest thing, because when we first need medicines, that's when you're going to get, in my opinion, that's when you're going to get the most benefit from it and feel the medicine and the energies of the medicine the most. And then again, once you get to that point where it's more and more and more to feel that energy, start being your own guide, start being your own judge, be cognizant of the fact that you might be taking one step too far.
Yeah, the results tell us a lot, right? You're mentioning if nothing is happening, that is definitely a communication. And, you know, if we start getting clogged regularly, like, I think that's sometimes a communication from the medicine of like, hey, time out, you know, that our body is responding. And it might just be that it's been too habitual, because as Chandra was mentioning, any medicine, no matter how purely it was made, we can use it with ill intent. And just because we don't mean to use it for escape doesn't mean that we're not. And being more aware of why we're reaching for him and paying attention to the results, as you're mentioning. I think the addictive nature of Hapéh, all of the medicines that have that quality, they're also an aspect of forcing us or asking us to be in integrity with why it is that we're reaching for them. It's kind of like nature is wild, and when we go into her, we gotta bring our awareness, or she'll kill us, literally. No, Hapéh, its addictive qualities, it's a failsafe that prevents the abuse of his medicine long term. Because if we're using it unconsciously or with the desire to escape, we will become addicted and have to confront that. It's not the medicine's fault. It's the, you know, just the dysfunction of our relationship. It's not our fault either. I don't like to ever place blame, but the responsibility is in the person that is working with the medicine, not the medicine, to maintain a non-addictive relationship. That's on us. So it's a medicine of integrity for that reason.
And also,
somebody,
oh,
please, Chandra.
Just add of sovereignty, like Hapéh really, and tobacco really helps us build sovereignty within ourselves and within our own energy field. So if we're coming to it too much and there becomes an addictive nature, then you're not really being sovereign in your own, like everything with balance. So that was just one point I wanted to add, the sovereignty piece.
Beautiful. One of my favorite words, by the way. Okay, so we have a question around, there is a lot more information these days around the dangers of working with Hapéh. Somebody's asking in particular with regards to the sensitivity of the nasal cavity. And, you know, so we have all been working with this medicine for a while. I mentioned sometimes the nasal cavity starts to respond as a potential communication that maybe it's time to take a break. But are there any, besides the addictive tendencies, Chandra, dangers of working with Hapéh that we should be aware of?
I would say really no. It's again, it's more that, you know, we have this beautiful pure plant, and most of like, in all honesty, in most cases it's us bringing whatever maybe misaligned energies to the medicine and then wanting to blame the medicine. Some people, you know, will email and say, oh, this is XYZ is happening, and Is there something in the medicine? And it's like, then I have to go through and ask them, what are you doing else in your life? You know, where else are perhaps you out of alignment? Because sometimes, yes, the Hapéh can create some, if you're using it too much, it can create inflammation within your nasal cavity. But then there are also things like diet and, you know, are you eating a clean diet? Are you having dairy and sugars? And are you drinking, or are you doing any other kind of drugs? You know, like there's a lot of other questions. So really, my answer is no. It's the humanness. I mean, look at the state of the world.
That's what I was hoping you would say, because that piece around diet and other toxicities, because this is a medicine that cleans us, we cannot blame him when there is something to clean, right? When it's like, oh, well, you know, you're super toxic. So every time you work with him, if you're purging, inflamed, etc., yes, it's time for some self-examination of like, where might that be triggered that the medicine is pointing to? You know, because like I said, it could be a matter of working too much, too frequently with Hapéh, but quite often it is something else, is a catalyst for the disease in our body that he is trying to make us aware of, and he gets blamed for it. So, and that's what I see, because I've seen some of these articles of the dangers of Hapéh, and I'm like, nope, it's humanity. It's the toxic world that we live in. Like, for example, I have a client that works with Hapéh regularly, and she started getting super inflamed. And we figured out that the environment that she was breathing was super toxic. She had her home tested for carbon monoxide poisoning, and it wasn't off the charts, but it was there. Hapéh was trying to help of like, honey, something's wrong, something's wrong. If she had stopped and said, oh, it's Hapéh's problem, I got to stop working with him, she wouldn't have gotten this information. So this is the tricky part of working with plant medicines, is they're trying to make us aware of something deeper than what our consciousness currently has access to. And if we blame them, if we vilify them, we're missing the message. So, okay, great questions, everybody. I am going to now share my process of self-serving. And I'm going to share, you know, basically what I call the bigger process. This is what I do every morning when I choose to self-serve. And I don't always choose to self-serve, but I'm going to share my process, and then I'm going to pass it to Daryl and to Chandra in case they do anything differently they want to fill in, because it is a super personal process. But like I mentioned, I have an altar just for Hapéh, because first of all, I have tons of different blends, and I have a few different coripis, which is the name of the pipes that we use to self-serve. My favorite is bone, because I travel a lot with it and it doesn't get as beat up as my bamboo or wooden ones. But mine has a crystal here and a crystal here, and this is my go-to. But I also have one that's made out of bone and carved into a wolf, because it's one of my totems. Like, it's really personal, you know, all the different tools that are available that really resonate with us. So my process is, when I sit down in the morning and I'm ready to open up sacred space, I honor the 4 directions and the 4 elements that connect with each direction. I honor Father Sky, I honor Mother Earth, I honor the spirit realm, and I honor myself. And that's how I open sacred space. And I typically do that with a stick of mapacho. Light him up, bathe myself in the smoke, open the portal. Basically, it's my personal process for basically stepping out of the energy of my everyday life and into the sacred. And by the way, I only serve Hapéh at my altar or in ceremony. I don't sit in front of Netflix and self-serve. I don't do it in any place that doesn't feel sacred. And it does hurt my heart to see this medicine being used like cigarettes, of just sort of haphazardly. And I don't try to carry on conversations. It's me and Hapéh, no distractions. And that's just important to me, to treat him with reverence. So once I open the portal, I grab my pipe and I choose the blend. Usually I let the blend choose me. I just put my hand over the altar and whatever jumps out, and I don't look, and I just grab one. Every now and then I have a specific intention. One of my favorites right now I work with a lot is Beautiful Dreamer from Tribe Your Spirit, because that's a really good for me, vibration that is strong enough, but not like overpowering to start my day. And it has this very expansive energy. So I often reach for that one, but if I don't have a blend in mind, I just let someone choose me. And it feels, it's kind of what Daryl was speaking to. It is hard to be in our out of our heads, basically, when we're doing this process. And that's one of the things that I do, is let it choose me. So I grab my medicine. And I was taught, and I'd be interested if you guys were taught differently, but I was taught to put the medicine in my left hand, the hand of receiving. So I always do a symbolic blow. Make sure that the hand is clean. And if it's not clean, if it's visibly not clean, wash your hands before putting the medicine in it. Like, you know, it's part of the sacredness of it. So I do the blow. I always have a bucket and tissues, the most important accoutrements for this process. And then I'll take the medicine. And as I mentioned before, I try not to have it in my head how much I'm going to use, you know, like, because again, that's just trying to control the process. You know, I'll pour the medicine out. Now, occasionally the whole dang thing comes out, and no, I'm not going to self-administer the entire container. But usually I just try to trust it. If more comes out than I expected, great. If less, great. But just trying to be in a relationship of trust. So I pour out the medicine and immediately cap the container, and put it back on the altar. Don't leave your medicine uncapped, left someplace other than your altar, soaking up the energies. It worked very hard to get to you in a pure prayer-filled space. Don't ruin that by leaving an open vessel someplace in your house. And actually, every time I'm in movement before I'm serving, I cover my hand, again, to protect the medicine so that it's not exposed. So I cap this, put it back on the altar, and then you take the long end of your koripi, your pipe, and you're going to smush down the medicine. The idea is, in case any clumps are in there, it gets evenly, like a thin, even layer. So you just kind of smush that down, and then you're going to scoop up half of it. And then I always do a tap, because sometimes it collects on the edge, and that can immediately hit your nostril and cause coughing and all kinds of mayhem. So do a little tap to try to get the medicine anchored into the pipe. And then cover your hand for the second half. So then when I do my process of blessing myself, take a deep breath, get centered. I take the crystal on the end of my pipe, and I bless my crown. I usually do a Reiki symbol that I love. I bless my crown. I bless my third eye, and then I bring it to my heart. My cat is chiming in here. I bring it to my heart, and here is where, if I have an intention, if I have a request, if there's just something I want to say to the spirit of Hapéh, I will do so. I will thank the spirit of whatever medicines are in the blend. If I know it has Sananga or Palo Santo in addition to Mapacho or Sunu, I thank each of the spirits of the plants. I thank the tribes that created and prayed over this medicine. I thank people like my sister Chandra that made it possible that I could work with this medicine. I thank everyone involved in bringing it to me. And I thank the spirit of Mapacho, of Hapéhcito himself, for the opportunity to work with him. And then I express my intentions, usually internal voice. Take a deep breath, and I serve the left nostril first, because I was taught to start with the feminine. I know some people do it right nostril. It's not wrong. It's just, you know, the way that we were taught, the way that it feels right. So I will self-serve my left nostril first. I'm not going to do it here. I'm just describing it. As Chandra was mentioning, the blow is the most mysterious, personal part of this process. I know that my blow has, especially for myself, has sort of evolved over time. You know, it started out kind of like a staccato. And nowadays I start soft. And then I end with this like exclamation point, you know? But sometimes the blow comes out completely soft, a deer blow. Or sometimes it's really intense, baby blow, as Elise is saying. Baby blow is beautiful. You know, it's just this personal relationship that's expressed with the energy of the medicine. And it's lovely, however it comes out. It's just a way for us to continue to evolve our intention and the energy in which we self-serve. So as soon as I blow the left side, I will give myself a moment and breathe through your mouth. You don't want to breathe through your nose once you have the medicine in, because it needs a minute or so to really ground in. So I get the left side in, and I take a breath and I scoop up the second half. And then I blow for the right side, immediately put my pipe back on my altar so that it's not laying around on the floor someplace. And then I do different things. Sometimes if I feel like there was a big expression of energy, I'll grab some agua de Florida and just bless my crown. Sometimes I find myself just wiping energy off me because I can feel Hapéh just pushing things out. It becomes this intuitive dance, but you want to be with the medicine for, I give myself at least 15 minutes to be with it. Sometimes I need more because I'm in a process, which is amazing. I make sure when I self-serve Hapéh, I don't have anything for the next hour, at least, because I'm sensitive and I want to give respect to him that it's not a rush and go. Like, you got 10 minutes, let's do this. And, that doesn't feel good to me. So I give myself at least 15 minutes, but usually much longer, to sit, to meditate, to be with it. Because one of the things that he does is he quiets the monkey mind. It's such a delicious, at least for me and my chatty brain, a delicious experience to have it be quiet and just to be with that. Hapéh is a medicine of beingness, not doingness. So being with him and being aware, curious about anything that comes up, just like any ceremony. Sometimes song lyrics come in, like I'm like, oh, I haven't thought of that song in a while. And there's a message in that. Memories or images. Sometimes there's bodily sensations that get really hot or purge, etc. It's like just being with that, letting the medicine do what it knows it needs to do. And sometimes insights come in, like, aha, there's an idea. And I have a journal always nearby that I'll take notes with, but just being with it, giving him some time to clean or express. And then when I know, okay, I'm done, I close the portal the same way that I opened it, by honoring the 4 directions. And I say at the end, I now close all that was opened by the power and the grace and the love of the multiverse. Aho. Just bookending the experience. And that's my process. Daryl, anything that you would add, anything that you do differently?
Yeah, I mean, I do it a little bit differently, but it's all still pretty much the same, within the same spirit and intention of the medicine. So whenever I'm serving it to others, I serve it like you mentioned, how I'll put the medicine in the palm of my hands, clear my hand first. I then clear my tools as well with my breath. And I always do 3 short blows, and it's clean, clean, clear is what my intention when I'm blowing. And then I'll scoop half whenever I'm serving to someone else. When I'm serving for myself, again, I'm very regulated and regimented in what I do, a little bit more so than what your technique is. And I do divide it into even little piles in my palm, and I always do serve the left first, because for me, I wasn't taught that it was the feminine. I was taught that it was honoring the past, death, and what we've come from. And we have to honor where we've been, because that led us to where we are. And so I always serve to the left first as well, to myself and others, because I think past is extremely important. And then I serve to the right because it honors the future and where we're going. And again, why we're here and what we're doing. And as far as what I do, instead of going from top to heart, I go heart to crown. I just do reverse order from what you do. I set my intentions as I'm holding it in my heart center, my heart's energy, and I ask to clean the energies around my heart. I ask that my heart be in connection with my mind, because oftentimes they aren't in life. And that's very important with these medicines, is to have our mind and our heart in congruency, so we can actually make the right decision or be in an honorable way, come in a good way. And then I hold it to my third eye, ask to clear my third eye, to clear my intuition, and then again, ask it to be in alignment with my heart, and then connect to the divine so I can hear those messages and bring them in. And then I serve myself left and then right. And then, close the ceremony, and all the spirits that came here today to help with this, I thank you very much. And I return you to the 7 directions.
I love the piece about the past and the future. I have never heard it described that way. That's super beautiful. So thank you for that. And I know a lot of people that do heart to crown too. And that's what's so fun about having multiple people here sharing their process is there's no one way to do it. And we're hoping that we inspire each of you to find your way if you're new to this or to refine it. So thank you for, yeah, more, please.
A very important thing that I've learned is it's not always fun whenever you sit with this medicine. And the energy of this medicine, definitely, I mean, you're putting into your sinuses, you're directly. The other thing I do is after I serve myself, I direct the medicine to the divine, and then I sweep myself off because I'm cleaning. When you feel the medicine coming on and you notice you're squinching your face, relax your face, invite the medicine down with every exhale so gently, and it won't get caught in your head and in your sinuses. And you'll be amazed at how maybe you can bring it from your head all the way through your fingertips, all the way through your toes, and allow that medicine to just fill your entire body and do what it needs to do.
Beautifully described. Sananga, working with Sananga actually taught me to relax into it. I do the same with Hapéh. And one thing I didn't mention is there are also different perspectives around whether you should swallow if there's medicine that comes to the back of your throat or whether you should spit. I think it's a very personal thing. Again, because I'm super sensitive to it and I purge really easily, I almost always spit if there's stuff that comes to the back of my throat. But some traditions say swallow it, deepen, bring it into your body, connect with it. I say whatever works for each of us as individuals, but that yeah, that can go either way. And of course, if it starts to drip down your nose, that's what the tissues are for, but not to blow your nose right after you self-serve. It sort of ruins the point. I see that happen when sometimes I serve people and they go right back and blow their nose. I'm like, no, let it permeate. If it's dripping down your nose and making a mess, you can do the ladylike dabs, but don't blow out the medicine, at least for 5-10 minutes to let it really permeate. And Daryl, you also mentioned something I forgot to describe. Cleaning the pipe. I usually do a blow to clean the pipe before and after I serve. And I have a ritual on a monthly basis. I clean my pipes completely, a little pipe cleaner, a little agua de florida, or whatever you want to, because it gets crusty after a while and we got to keep our tools clean, and to bless them on a regular basis with mapacho smoke. Sage them if you're, working with others and you feel like energies are getting sticky, but to keep the tools clean and well cared for too. So thank you for mentioning that. Chandra, is there anything that you do differently?
You covered a lot and so beautifully. For me, as my relationship to my energy work actually has shifted a lot in the past few years. So I work with my energy field daily, and when I work with Hapéh, it's either like before ceremony, after ceremony, or if my energy goes dunk, I'm like, okay, time to sit with Hapéh. So as an energy healer, I work with the 12th dimensional shield. So I open up sacred space. But I do something called the 12th dimensional shield. It's something that I teach my clients. It's also something that is free on SoundCloud. It's very badly recorded because I just, chucked my phone there one day in a ceremony and was like, this should bless everybody else. So if you guys want to go to my SoundCloud, I have free energy clearings there, and it's under my name, Chandra Higher, not under Tribu Spirit. You can go find that there and do the 12th dimensional shield. So I create an energetic container first, and then I same process, put the medicine out. I put the medicine to my heart first. Also, I work this way, but also I can tend to pray for a really long time. Because this is just my time that, I get to express all my gratitude to all the tribes that I work with, like so much gratitude to the spirit of Hapéhcito and Mapacho for allowing me to be the bridge for other people's healing. The tribes, the spirits of the forest, like really covering the rainforest with golden frequency of white light. I do a little blend of like prayers and energy work. I asked the medicine to help me to see and to see what I cannot see, to hear what I need to hear with ease and grace, because I think we all have blind spots and blockages that we're not necessarily able to see and hear. Yeah, and then I serve myself and I sit with the medicine and I really feel where it's going. A lot of times I hold stress in my back, so that's usually a place where I'm like adjusting, and then it just depends. It's very intuitive. I'll probably start also doing clearing and energy work, just whatever happens naturally. But yeah, really paying attention to where the medicine is going. If there is an immediate reaction or a place of holding or like pain, that's a signal for the medicine that the medicine is communicating to you, hey, we need some love, we need some attention over here. And then to really bring breath and spaciousness into that, to really kind of expand and ask it, you know, if it is pain or a feeling of uncomfortability, ask it why it's there, and you can build this relationship with the spirit of tobacco and also yourself and your body, and learn more and grow. And then I also, after I use our agua florida, and I just spray my energy field. My favorite is Calma. Yeah, same, close space and just give gratitude again. Oh, no, wait. I created, I normally don't use this playlist, but I created a free playlist on Spotify for everybody if you want to. So normally I do put on music because I love music. So I make sure my sacred space is all set up and all the things like the bucket, the tissues, the agua florida, all the tools first. And then when I play the music. So I created a free playlist for everyone if you would like to. A lot of those songs on there are the songs that you would hear with the indigenous if you went to the forest to do work with them. So a lot of them are, yeah, and it's my name again, Chandra Heyer on Spotify, and the playlist there is Tribal Spirit Hapéh ceremony.
Everybody, I spelled out Chandra's name in chat. It's Hyre, right? Do I have that? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I want your playlist. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing, sweetheart. Like, yeah, so there's a lot of similarities, but as you can tell, like all of us that do this regularly, we find our personal relationship and intuition of how we work with the energies once we're in that portal. And actually, yeah, Trisha's sharing that she taps under the collarbone when she serves somebody. I like the tapping too. It supports the receiving. I tap on their heart sometimes. I like the snapping, grounding the energy in. I'll do that for myself and others sometimes. There's all kinds of neat things that we do intuitively, but I think it really manifests from the relationship that each of us has with the spirit of the medicine itself. That's why if you've received Hapéh from multiple people, it's different every time. The blow, the connection they have, all of it it's a different experience, not to mention the different vibrations of all the blends. Back before I discovered medicine, I was a wine drinker. You'd be like, oh, the tannins and oh, this note. Now I get that experience with Hapéh, with medicine of like, ooh, this one's got a little cinnamon notes. This one, and it's really amazing to create a relationship with Hapéh where you get to notice the little nuances and the different vibrations and have an opportunity, as Chandra said, to let the medicine connect us more to our bodies and the communications that's happening there. Oh, thank you, Adam. He put the link to Chandra's playlist in the chat. For all of you watching on YouTube, I'll put it down below in the description. Any other questions? Did I get to everything? You guys are having great questions and beautiful shares. Awesome.
I could add something about the different blends, just that. So for me, I try to stay as traditional as possible. And if you guys do go to Tribal Spirit, I have the different blends categorized as that, where you'll find the traditional collection is all the indigenous tribes that are staying very true to the recipes. And, as we all grow and evolve and we use the different tribes are also expanding and growing and using different tools and different plants. So there you will also find the specialty collections that are not necessarily so much traditional and working with different plants.
Oh, but they're so amazing and fun to get to have like the vibration of Palo Santo. Laura, my partner, and I, that's been our favorite. It's like so amazing to have that vibration in Hapéh and to get to work with the spirit of that plant in a different way. So I put in the chat to tribuspirit.com so that you can see. Somebody's asking, do you ship to Australia?
Yeah, we ship worldwide. There's 2 sites. So one I just launched last year, which is US Tribal Spirit. So those who are located in the US, you can order from there. And if you're in Australia, New Zealand, I would actually recommend that you order from the US. It would probably arrive to you a bit sooner. Anyone who's in Europe can do tribuspirit.com. So we have 2 bases.
And Tribu Spirit, Europe was based in the UK. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay, Elise wants to know, this is a great last question. Can someone serve you who hasn't been initiated? What's your opinion on that, love?
Sure, anyone can serve you.
I mean, yes, they can, but yeah, should they?
I think a lot of people out of, really wanting to help support one another, serve one another, that's maybe where it starts, and, just wanting to share out of love because the medicine has helped them in their lives. So you can serve other people. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to have so much of an effect. And if you were to receive from somebody who had an initiation, who has worked with the spirit of tobacco, or also like Daryl, who's done Amapacho Dieta, you will feel the difference. It's the energy behind everything.
I agree. I'm not the medicine police. I mean, with ayahuasca, you name it, like I have strong opinions, but like, it's just that. Can somebody who hasn't been initiated have a beautiful relationship and serve in a wonderful way? Of course they can, but for me, actually, I think the energy of the person is even more important than the initiation or process. Because I used the example of the story where I got flattened and I knew better that there was a competitive energy. It's like, do you want to have an intimate connection with the energy of that person? And if not, don't do it. No, absolutely ask what is their relationship with Hapéh if they're a carrier. And just because they haven't been initiated doesn't mean they don't have a beautiful relationship, like Daryl's diet, like having a process of going really deep. You just want to know that they know the edges, the potency, the power of Hapéh. If they've never been face first in the dirt, I don't want to receive from them. I want to receive from somebody that knows the depth, the power, the beauty of the medicine, because the relationship is that deep. So whether that is in a traditional initiation or just through a long relationship, all good. No, we're all just trying to do our best in honoring the calling of gifting medicines to other people, and also honoring the traditions that have been in place for thousands of years. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Reminder, Tribu Spirit, amazing Hapéh, plant medicine people for retreats and coaching and in this space. Next webinar is on April 4th, and I'm going to be talking about the abuse in shamanic ceremonies that is getting more and more prevalent, and how we can protect ourselves. So I hope to see you there. So much love. Everybody go cultivate a beautiful relationship with Hapéh. Thank you for your questions and for your presence. Until next time, Chandra and Daryl, thank you with my whole heart. So appreciate you both being here.
Such an honor and a blessing. Thank you.
Much love. Bye-bye, everybody.